Hello, Glastonbury Thorn Primary School and everybody else out there in Storyland. How you doing? So, come back for the second part of my story, have ya? I thought you might. Let me just see where we got to. Now, I told you the bit where I explained what snow elves are, didn't I? I must have done that because that's the beginning of the story. And I introduced the main character, Mr. Blizz the snow elf. And I told you how he likes penguins. And he found an egg and he hatched the egg. And the egg hatched an ice dragon. And the ice dragon tried to eat him, but tripped over a lone polar bear standing there on 3 feet, his fourth one covering their snows. The ice dragon impaled his beak in a lone pine tree, and Blizz escaped, running off to the snow elf's king's castle, shouting, "Ice dragon, ice dragon, ice dragon!" So, I'll carry on from there, shall I? Now, it's going to take Blizz some time to reach the Snow Elf King's castle, so as he hurries as fast as his little hairy feet will take him, I use this opportunity to tell you a little about ice dragons. So I will, oh yes, yes, yes. There are many types of dragons. There are green dragons, soot dragons, red dragons, white dragons, fire-breathing dragons and Chinese dragons, to name just a few of them. Some are friendly, some are clumsy, most are very wise and clever. But ice dragons are the most dangerous, fearsome, mean and nasty dragon an elf could ever meet, ever. So they are, though, yes, yes, yes. They live in cold, snow-covered places and have a breath so cold that it makes very cold actually feel quite warm, so it does. But worst of all, they live on a diet made up solely of elves. And upon catching an elf in its little claws, the ice dragon will use its cold breath to freeze the elf's long nose and stick it by the nose to the branch of a tree or the wall of a cave or whatever. And there the poor elf will hang, dangling helpless, until the ice dragon is ready to eat him. Yes, it is. Ice dragons are, thankfully, very rare. Well, thankfully, if you're an elf anyway. Indeed, there hasn't been a sighting of one for over 400 years, when Elfie Eater, the most feared ice dragon ever, she who would eat a whole elfin clan for breakfast, was killed by Zero the hero. Although, until he had killed Elfie Eater, he was just known as Zero. A mighty wood elf was he, who, upon hearing of the plight of the snow elves, challenged Elfie Eater to a fight to the death. And but that's another story for another day. For now, let's carry on with this one, because I see that Blizz is now fast approaching the Snow Elf King's ice castle. So he is, oh yes, yes, yes. Now, the Snow Elf King's castle is made purely of ice and glistens in the evening sun, so it does. Indeed, it glistens so much that sometimes, if you look to the north in the evenings, you can see it's twinkling, reflected in the nighttime sky. That's true, especially if you live up north, so it is. It is tall and square with 4 icy towers, one on each corner. And it is guarded by ferocious walruses with long, sharp, armour-plated tusks, like that. Just like that. Upon hearing Blizz's cries of Ice Dragon, the walruses called their captain. The captain called the king, and the king called an emergency meeting of the Snow Elves Council, so he did. Now the Snow Elves Council is made up of the wisest and oldest members of all the Snow Elf clans. The council gathered in the great council hall and sat on high-backed chairs made of crystal clear ice, all arranged in a semicircle. Each councillor was attended by a young man or woman who held a cup underneath his long pointy nose to collect all the drips so that during the long hours of debate the drips didn't land and freeze and clog up their hairy feet, because they wouldn't want that. No, they wouldn't. Oh, no, no, no. Once full, those cups would be emptied into the great drip tray of wisdom, which stood just near the door to the great council hall. So it did. Blizz told them how the ice dragon had hatched from a large egg in his cave. He didn't actually say that he had hatched it, though. He thought maybe it was best to just keep that quiet. He told them how it had chased him outside and how it had got its beak stuck into a tree and was still dangling there trying to get loose when he came running back to the castle. Then best we go kill it now, while it's still stuck there, said a female elf's voice. You, Mr. Blizzard, will you lead us to that tree? Blizz turned around and was about to say something like, Not me, I don't ever want to be being as close to a dragon like that again, I don't. Oh, no, 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 no. But all that came out of his mouth was, well, nothing. Instead, he just stood there staring at the most beautiful, beautiful snow elf he had ever seen ever. Her ears were long and slender with bright red tips, and her feet were wider and hairier than any he'd ever seen ever. The sort of feet that could walk on fresh snow without leaving a footprint. And her nose was so long, blue and pointy, it seemed to Blizz that it could sniff out a tulip bulb at 100 paces, so it could. Blizz, like all elves, had heard of the Princess Ice-Cool, daughter of King Cool, and her enchanting beauty. But it was not until he saw her in person that he realised just how stunningly and amazingly beautiful she really was, because, well, she was. I said, would you lead us there? Said the princess as she looked at him. Blizz's brain wanted to say, no way, your princessness. But as he gazed at her, standing there looking so beautiful, he heard his voice say, okay. Now the only known way to kill an ice dragon is fire. So the Snow Elf army quickly collected dried wood and, because it's good for burning, barrels and barrels of cod liver oil. Blizz stood in the castle's courtyard watching as the beautiful princess organised the army, wishing, how he was wishing that he was a brave soldier, the sort that could win the heart of a princess, so he did. Suddenly, Princess Ice turned to Blizz. We'll be travelling by polar bear. It's faster than walking. Have you ever ridden one? Yeah, sure, no problem, Blizz said in a brave voice, hoping to impress her. Princess Icicle stood there staring at him in silence, and Blizz felt his nose blush, going the same colour as his ears, as he embarrassedly looked down at his feet, which were busy kicking a piece of snow. No, Your Majesty, he said quietly. Never rode one in my life. Well, truth be knowing, I've been more of a penguin sort of elf. He waited for her to laugh. Most elves did when he said he liked penguins. When she didn't laugh, he looked up and, to his surprise, he saw she was smiling. And what a smile! Up to now she'd come across as beautiful and royal, but someone way beyond his reach. But when she smiled and smiled at him, it made Blizz feel like he could take on the ice dragon with just one hand, so it did. I know what you mean, she said. I too like penguins. In fact, sometimes when I see a really hungry or cute-looking penguin, I give them some of my frozen cod. Blizz's mouth fell open in amazement. But before he could say anything, the beautiful lady stopped smiling and became a princess on a mission again. There's no time to give you a lesson, she said. If you're to show us the way, you'll just have to share my polar bear. With that, she turned and strode away across the courtyard, stopping to give an order here or comfort a frightened mother there, so she did. And as Blizz watched her, he thought that he had never seen a more beautiful elf in his whole life ever. It took maybe an hour to organise the army and gather the wooden barrels of cod liver oil, and Blizz spent this time wishing he was back in his cave with his knitted duvets, far, far, far away from the danger. He wasn't a brave snow elf and really didn't want to go on an ice dragon hunt. Why, he kept asking himself, why did I ever be agreeing to being given and why did I say I'm going? But every time he asked himself that question, he remembered the way the princess had smiled at him. Women do that. Then, all too soon, the army was ready, and before him stood the biggest, most bad-tempered looking polar bear Blizz had ever seen in his whole life ever. Sitting on top of it was Princess Ice, her legs wrapped around its neck, her longbow and arrows strapped to its side. Show no fear. Just grab hold of its fur and climb up on its side. She offered him her hand, and as he went to get hold, the bear gave a growl. Blizz took his hand back and was about to say that it's okay, Your Majesty, I be a very fast walker, I think I'll just walk if that's okay with you. But then she done it. She gave him that smile, the one that made him want to be braver than he really was. So he took hold of the bear's fur and climbed up onto its back behind the princess, who took his hands and wrapped them around her waist. "Hold on tight. We wouldn't want our guide falling off before we get there. You'd miss all the fun." "Oh yes," he said with a nervous laugh. "All the fun. Dragon hunting. Fun." The princess rode to the head of the army and was about to lead the mighty army out of the gates when King Cool stood in her way. "Daughter," he said in a loud voice, "get off that polar bear. This mission is much too dangerous for you. As your father, I order you to come with me now." It seemed to Blizz that the princess went suddenly stiff and grew 2 inches, and the hairs on her feet and ears stood up on end. "You're right," she said in a stiff voice. "I am your daughter, and that makes me a princess, and as such, I'm not used to taking orders. Now you know, father, and I know that I'm the best archer outside of the woodland elves, and I am leading this dragon hunt. Is that clear?" It wasn't a question, it was an order, and the king knew it. Then his eyes fell on Blizz and glared with menace. "You there," he said in a commanding voice. "I, your king, order you to look after my daughter. If anything happens to her, I'll feed your nose to the seagulls. Is that clear?" "Oh yes, your kingliness," said Blizz in a nervous voice. "Princess safe, no seagulls. That be clearer than a polished icicle, that be, your kingship, sir." Sitting on the back of the polar bear is not the most comfortable of rides. Blizz was constantly being rocked from side to side as each leg moved. Occasionally, the polar bear would jump over what, to the elves, looked like absolutely nothing at all, so it did. But being polar bears, they could see that it was actually another polar bear standing on 3 legs, the 4th one covering its nose, as it played an important game of hide and seek, so it did. These jumps would take Blizz by surprise, and he would hold on even tighter to the princess, his eyes shut tight. Blizz gave directions, and soon they came to the tree where he'd last seen the ice dragon. But it was nowhere to be seen. All that they found was a big hole in the tree where its beak had been impaled, and 1, 2, 3, 4 snow elves, their noses frozen to a branch by the ice dragon as they dangled their feet kicking. "Nelp, net nas down," they cried as they dangled there by their noses, arms and feet waving in the air. Princess Ice jumped gracefully from the polar bear, landing lightly on the snow, and started giving orders, because, well, that's what princesses do. And then, actually, that's what all women do, but shh, I didn't say that. "You soldiers, build fires there, and there. Captain Drift, get your men to arrange the polar bears in a big circle around us." Blizz watched the princess with awe and wonder. Oh, how he wished he was a soldier. the sort that would be a hero, like in the stories of old. Surely then she would notice him. But she had noticed him. And if he hadn't been so busy daydreaming, he'd realised that she had called him not once, not twice, but 3 times. "Mr. Blizzard," she said in a loud voice, causing him to jump so much that he nearly fell off the polar bear, so he did. "Yes, Your Majesty, sorry, Your Majesty, yes, Your Majesty," he said quickly, ashamed of the fact that he had been daydreaming whilst everybody else was working. Her face softened and she spoke, that smile slowly spreading across her face, the one that made his nose blush. "I said, would you please stack the barrels of cod liver oil by the fires so that we can use it to shoot down the dragon, if you don't mind?" "Certainly, Your Majesty," he said, happy to play his part in the oncoming battle. He swung his leg over the bear's neck and jumped off in what he hoped was an impressive manner, and if he had jumped off the same side the princess had, it might well have been. However, he jumped off the other side and landed straight in a snowdrift. A snowdrift so deep that he totally disappeared inside it. For a moment, all was silent. And then, from inside it, in an embarrassed voice, you heard Blizz say, I'm just checking that the dragon's not hiding in here." "And is it?" she asked in an amused voice. He could hear the laughter in her voice, and, even though he was stuck in the freezing snow, he could feel his ears and nose burning as he blushed. No, Your Majesty." "Then maybe you could help with the barrels?" "Yes, Your Majesty. There's just one problem, Your Majesty." "Which is?" said the princess, trying hard not to laugh. "Well, I'm stuck." "You 2 soldiers there," she said loudly, so as to be heard over the laughter of the army. "Get him out." 2 soldiers quickly dug him out, and, embarrassed by his foolishness, Blizz quickly set about moving barrels of cod liver oil whilst Princess Ice wrapped duvets around the poor elves stuck to the tree and used burning wood to gently unfreeze their noses so that they weren't stuck to the tree. Once they were unstuck, she wrapped more duvets around them and then turned to see how well her orders were carried out. Her plan was simple. When the ice dragon returned for his dinner, he would see that she'd freed the elves and attack in anger. It could not charge straight at them on the ground because of the circle of polar bears. This meant it would have to attack by air, exposing the belly, which, as everybody knows, is the softest part of any dragon. And that's when the army would dip their arrows in the cod liver oil, hold them in the fire to set light to them, and then fire their burning arrows at the dragon and kill it till it was dead. She was about to call her army together and tell them her plans when her eyes fell upon Blizz. She knew it was him by his nose, which was just sticking out over the top of a barrel of cod liver oil that he was struggling to carry to the fire. Anyone else, she thought, would simply roll the barrel to where they want it. But not Blizz. Oh no, he had to do it the hard way, in his own clown-like manner. A manner that made her giggle and forget that she was a princess. A manner that made her feel all warm inside, so it did. I wonder, she thought as she watched him, if he does it on purpose, so as to make me feel more like a normal elf. For a moment, she wondered what it would be like to be free of royal duties, free to do what she wanted, marry who she wanted. But only for a minute, for there was work to be done. Captains of my army, she cried in a loud royal voice. To me for battle orders. She took one last look round before telling the captains her plan and noticed the Babbles nearest her. Oh, Mr. Blizzard, she said, those barrels there, way too close to the fire. If they get knocked over and burst into flames, it will be a big explosion. Move them over there, please. Blizz put down the barrel he was carrying so that he could see where the princess was pointing, and then hurried off to do as ordered. It was then, just as he tried to hurry off, that he realised he was unable to move as he put the barrel down on his foot. He tried to pull it out, but it wouldn't shove. He tried to pull it out with the other hand, it wouldn't shove. So in the end, he lay down and started to push the barrel with his spare foot. So he did, until he kicked it off of his other foot. It's that smile, he thought. Whenever she be giving me that smile, my brain just stops working, it does. I wonder if she'd be doing it on purpose. Like I say, he finally got his foot free and stood up, and that's when he saw it. Princess Cool, he said in a nervous voice. She was kneeling down on the other side of the fire with her back to him, drawing a battle plan in the snow. Yes, Mr. Blizzard. I think we might be having a problem. And what might that be? Well, this here ice dragon, either he's gone and grown, or there be being two of them, so there be. And what makes you think that? Because the one over there is being a lot bigger than the one I be seeing in my duvet cave. In fact, it be bigger than my duvet cave. Princess Cool and the captain stood up quickly and spun round to see where he was pointing. And there, on a hill, stood the ice dragon. But what a dragon! It must have been over 70 feet long. If you want to know how long 70 feet is, that's 70 rulers, end on end. Lengthways, not sideways. And as it opened its wings, each wing seemed wider than the widest house, and it let out an almighty cry. But without the cough. So loud and evil was that cry that it could freeze your very heart. Then it started to run and flap its wings, and it took off and it started to fly, and it flew straight at the army, its piercing gaze looking firmly and directly at Princess Icicle. And if you want to know what happened in the oncoming battle, come join me again tomorrow. For now, it's time for me to have a little play on my little beauty here. But I will finish it off tomorrow, I promise. Bye bye.